Hey, Deserved listeners, a lot of you know Alina from 90 Day Fiancé, the current season. She posted some racist posts on the internet and was called out for it, and then she posted an apology, and I did a reaction video to her apology. And the thesis, or the summary, I guess I would say, is that she did some wrong things. She exhibited some harmful attitudes and had, in her apology video, accepted that and taken responsibility for that and apologized for that. And I thought she seemed sincere. And I broke down her apology in terms of its elements. The one element that I was calling her out on was to, I don't know if it's calling her out, but I was telling her that she should try to, so she's posted, by the way, she's posted a reaction to my reaction video. So I hope, or I think she's going to address some of the things that I said. And in my video, I was talking about how she has come a certain distance down the road of recovery and awareness and rectifying the situation, meaning that she accepted responsibility. She didn't really, she was kind of minimizing it a little bit. And the main question I had about her next step, the challenge that I had for her for the next step, was that, she would say, well, it was just this thing, I didn't know. And what I was saying was, well, how come when there's ambiguity, you always go to some kind of racial thing, some kind of insensitive racial thing? That's something you should start exploring in yourself. I don't know, but I suspect that there's more work to be done in terms of how you have internalized the racism in your society, of which most, if not all, societies will inject those ideas and attitudes and prejudices into our minds. I have been injected by American society all the racist ideas, including racist ideas about Asian Americans and half Asians like myself. So I just didn't hear any kind of language around that. She just was like, I didn't know. And I know now, and I will never do that again. I'm sorry. And I didn't know at the time. And I was just like, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, that you just had no awareness. Or even if you didn't have awareness, like, why did you even go there all the time? Not everyone goes there even when they're unaware of things. So hopefully she will get to it. Let's watch.
Hey guys, this is Alina, and someone who I really respect made a video about my apology video and invited me to do a follow-up. So, of course, I couldn't say no to such an invitation.
Okay, good. I will say it is a bizarre world in which humble little me, professor and therapist, sitting in my stupid little office, recording videos and posting them on the internet, and a famous person on a famous TV show like 90 Day Fiancé will see it, one, and two, respond to it. So I'm quite humbled by that.
And here we are. To be honest, when I saw that Dr. Honda made a video about me, my heart sank a little bit, because I really loved watching his reactions. And
I hope she wasn't hurt by it. That's always my terror. That's always what keeps me up awake at night, is like, oh no, and a lot of the cast members will reach out to me and say, that they watch my videos, and I try to keep it honest when I'm reacting, but I do try to think like, well, and it is actually a practice as a therapist, honestly, because it's easy to fall into like a negative place, a place of bullying, a place of judgment, and I don't think anyone deserves that, particularly clients, but really everyone. And so, but I hope that she wasn't hurt. I did, I didn't pull any punches, but I did give her the benefit of the doubt, I thought. So let's see what she says.
He really seems like such a professional, and I could sense it right away, like when I started watching the first video that I watched of his. And I actually even learned a lot from his reactions to my story and other people's experiences. So it was really...
Okay, good. So my original. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, mostly because I just don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. It's just like, because if she were in front of me when we were having a conversation, I would have walked her through every, like, I've worked on clients and their races. I've worked on students. I've worked on myself and my own racism. And it takes time, and particularly in today's world, it's such an accusation to be called a racist or to doing something that's racist, which is, by the way, the norm. It's the rule, not the exception. So we need to change it and we need to fight it, but it shouldn't be something like, oh my God, someone has a racist attitude. It's just like, yeah, same with misogyny and sexism and classism. Like, it's there. No one's above it, particularly when you're not in my field or a similar field that studies this all the time. But anyway.
I was kind of, nervous about what he had to say. But before I kind of start talking about his reaction, I want to mention a few things. I still saw someone in the comments who said that they were Russian, or like they spoke Russian so fluently, and they are claiming that every Russian knows that N-word is a racial slur. And also they say that I lied about the N-word sounding very similar to the word that we use here in Russian. You have your right not to believe me. You have your right to think that I'm lying, especially considering the fact that I lied about my post being photoshopped. But I think it's just some kind of an attempt to show that not all Russians are like that. I understand this desire, but I think we should be just examining our biases and understand that not all Russians are aware of foreign context, and some are actually hyper aware.
Okay, so she's doubling down on what she was saying in the first video. I mean, she said a lot of things, but one of the things she was saying is, look, just because I speak English, just because I've been to the United States, doesn't mean I understand American culture when it comes to these kinds of words. And I mean, I knew it was kind of bad. And I remember, so she said that. She says, I knew it was kind of bad. I just didn't know it was that bad. Therefore, it's fine. And what I was saying was, okay, I can accept that. But you knew it was kind of bad. So give us an exploration, give us some self-awareness around how you used it, even though you knew it was you didn't know it was as bad. And I believe her in that, because even if she wanted to, I don't think she's the sort of person that would use that word knowing how bad it is, because I don't think she wants to alienate people in the world. So maybe she'll give us that explanation. I'm a little worried that we're going to hear this more. Now, let's say this whole video, she shows no growth. I'm still okay with that, because it takes a long time. For myself, for my students, for my clients, it takes years of deprogramming. You essentially have to de-brainwash yourself from the racist attitudes that have been injected into your head from media, from your family, from the legal system. And I wouldn't fault her necessarily for taking her time in something that it takes a lot of people time. So especially when you're being bombarded by accusations and half of them or most of them are unfair and you're just defending yourself. So, I'll lower my expectations, but I do have a hope that she'll give us, okay, you didn't know it was that bad, but you knew it was kind of bad. So what's going on there?
And some are just bad and racist people. And then we need to work on it. As I said, I will do my part on examining my biases and educating myself. I'm not a linguist in Russian or English, but here is a screenshot from Wikipedia about this word if you are interested. Second thing is what really kind of got to me. I didn't want to whine about it, but I feel like I should address it too. So many people, they think that they know my life, they know me just based on a show. And I've got so many comments about me, like when people say that I made the apology video only to come back on the show. But what show? our story has ended in the season. So please consider the fact that I know about it more than you do, but I just have some limitations that I can't talk about everything. And people are saying that I used the QQ to avoid moderation, but it was such a long time ago, and I didn't even think that this can be taken down for with like moderation, and that's why I used like proper spelling before, and it wasn't taken down. Yeah, you have a right to be angry at me, to not believe it. I get it. Well deserved.
Okay, so she's talking about how she made a post in the past using the N-word, and instead of G's, she used Q's. And people, including myself, were looking at that saying, okay, well, you must have known it was a bad word because you were altering the word to get around moderators. So at the very least, you knew that it was not something the internet doesn't, it doesn't accept that word. It doesn't let you post that word. And so again, it was that thing, like I believe her. I don't know. There's no way for me to know if it's true or not, but I believe her mostly that she didn't know it was that bad. I very much believe her that she didn't know it was that bad. But you knew it was kind of bad. So now, now maybe she's leading up to something. Maybe she's reacting to a lot of other people attacking her with being certain, like, you absolutely knew, you're a terrible human being. Maybe she's just reacting to that. I'm looking for that, at least the beginning of an exploration of that awareness of, like, I did know it was kind of bad, and I have absorbed the Russian version of racism against black people, and I never really explored it, but I do have some of those attitudes. And although I never targeted anyone, I treated everyone with respect, but I probably do have a little bit of dehumanization or bias, or the way you look down on a certain group of people because of the way that they are. I do have that. I don't know, but let's see what she says.
And I apologize for it, and I will work on myself, and I am. But I don't want to be accused of being some kind of a criminal mastermind. A lot of people are asking, why did I...
Yeah, I don't think she's a criminal mastermind. I think she's a young person. I mean, she's in her 20s. She was younger, in her younger 20s or late teens when she was posting this. So yeah, I mean, a lot. I think as time goes on, as people who grew up with social media, we're going to see this become much more of a common thing. I don't necessarily know how we're going to react to it, but does it surprise me that someone has, out of the thousands of posts, some unfortunate ones in the mix that reflect the racism of society? I'm not surprised. It doesn't make it okay, but it certainly doesn't mean she's a criminal mastermind, right?
Make such a lengthy video? Why didn't I just apologize and move on? I can agree with you on this, but you have to understand that I exist in the internet. I see stuff, I read stuff, and a lot of people were asking questions. A lot of people were confused, and they wanted to actually know the context. Maybe it makes them feel better. I don't know. So I tried to give them answers, and...
Right, so she's saying, I guess, people are criticizing her why don't you just apologize and let that be that? I mean, huh? She can post whatever she wants to on our own YouTube channel. The other thing is that in order to in fact, when people do that, right, someone will send horrible pictures to a minor as a politician or something, and they'll read the script. I'm very sorry for what I have done. I have given it a lot of thought. I have apologized to my wife and the rest of my family. I hope everyone can forgive me. This does not, those mean nothing to me. What I want to hear is, tell me what happened. Tell me your exploration. Tell me how you got to those decisions. What were you thinking at the time? Because that really tells us everything. And it also shows contrition. It also shows that you're remorseful, because you're like, let me explain where I'm not excusing what happened. It doesn't excuse it, but let me tell you like how I got to that point. Like, I wasn't trying to do this. I was trying to do that. It doesn't make it okay. So I actually really appreciated her long form apology.
I actually really loved how he started to talk about the research of apologies. And I never even thought about that there is a thing like that, and I'm definitely gonna dive into this now and learn more. It seems very interesting. But I'm glad that he mentions one thing in particular. While some people see my video as like just excuses, I actually wanted to give context to what happened, and because I got questions about it, as I mentioned earlier, and to understand myself. Why did I write it in the first place? What led me to it? I really appreciate how Dr. Honda was so generous and gave me the benefit of a doubt. Another thing that...
Okay, good. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't pull any punches, but there weren't a lot of punches to throw. So she's saying that because again, on the internet today, she's saying that she's getting some support, and a lot of hate. And I challenge y'all out there, whenever someone does something wrong and later they apologize, and you think that apology is insufficient, ask yourself, what apology would have been sufficient? Because a lot of people out there, I don't think they have an answer to that question. And like I said in the video last time, that's okay. If you're like, look, there's no apology that's going to get me to forgive you. I'm not going to forget this. You're done for what you did. There's certain things that you could put, Harvey Weinstein, for example, Jeffrey Epstein, this kind of stuff. You can be like, I don't care what apology video this, a person posts. Like, no, like, we're done with you. You're done. Get out of our lives. Lock the person up. Okay. But we could agree, I think, that these kinds of transgressions are not in that category. So there should be some viable way that a public figure like this could apologize, such that at least people would hear it and say, well, okay, I appreciate that they tried to apologize. They tried to explain what happened.
Dr. Honda talked about is shame. And this is something that I didn't really mention in my previous video. But I did feel a lot of shame when all these posts came out. And first people who I thought about were actually my friends from real life, some people who I really love and care about, even though we don't communicate every day. See, I have a lot of friends from all over the world. I love them and I really, really care about them and respect them. And I felt like I betrayed them all. They were always very kind to me.
Yeah, so I believe her here as well, that the first thing she felt, or one of the first things she felt after this all came out, was shame and remorse and pain for having hurt her people close to her, people who aren't white, I'm guessing, of people that she cares about, people that are nice to her, she says. And just that feeling of, are they hurt by what I post? Now that this is out there, are they? And that she felt that tremendously. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Because she's a human being and she's not, I don't think she's a psychopath, so it's a very natural feeling to have.
Also, like, very, very respectful, and they all were always like trying to help me with whatever they can and like pushing me on my wheelchair. But I just felt like I disrespected them and kind of betrayed them in a huge way.
And we can use this as a jumping off point. If you are a privileged individual, and it's hard for me to know what constitutes a privileged individual in Russia. I'm guessing white people. I don't know. But if you hold privilege, if you're in the United States, you're white. If you are Christian, if you are tall, if you're good looking, if you're rich or at least middle class, if you have resources, if your parents are available to help you out, if you don't have a disability, and so on, then one of the things that will always happen is you will always run into what Alina has run into, which is this moment of, oh crap, I've been operating from a place of privilege, of ignorance of other people's plight. And I've just been bulldozing ahead, and have I hurt other people around me? That is a magical moment for everyone with privilege. It gives me chills thinking about it. I've been through that myself. That's the moment of clarity. That's the moment of awareness of your privilege. That's what we used to call being woke. Now woke has this other word, but that's what it used to mean. It didn't used to be a bad word. It was like, oh, I've awakened and I now see it. And oh my God, what have I done? And that's a good feeling. It's better than ignorance. It's better than being a bulldozer. It's better than just using your privilege and harming people around you. It's like, oh my God, and am I going to hurt people in the future? She felt that. That's, it's a wonderful feeling, and it sucks, but it's necessary.
I care that I hurt and disrespected many more people other than my friends, but they were the ones who I thought of first. And yeah, it just didn't feel amazing. I can't believe how I contributed to the hate and the discrimination that so many people face on a daily basis with my actions, and it really is shameful. And I guess that's also one of the reasons why I said that my post was photoshopped. I can see Dr. Honda's points about me being in a category of a blackface with the first post that I have where I'm dressed like a guy. It was really surprising to me to hear that. I've seen comments about it, and I was thinking in my head, wait, I didn't paint my face black or anything.
Right, so what she's talking about is that she was at school, in high school, as an exchange student, I believe, in Los Angeles, I believe, in the United States anyway. And everyone at school played this, what I think she called Gender Bending Day, where people dressed up in a different gender, which has its own kind of issue with it as a school. Like, I don't, if any school administrators are out there, I don't recommend doing this for a variety of reasons that could be really hurtful to some people at school. But anyway, she was participating in that school-wide activity, and she showed some other pictures of other kids doing this sort of thing. Okay, so it's an innocent thing from a kid's point of view anyway. And so she was like, look, I was just dressing up as a guy. And this was another one of those examples where I was like, okay, it's good to get that context. It wasn't just you dressing up as a guy. It was the school doing it, and you leaned into the activity. But my question was to her is, why that guy? Why that particular type of guy? Because you're clearly signaling a black gangsta, a black gang member. That's the signal that I don't know if that's the way other people would receive it. That's the way I received it. The I think a red bandana and the beard. It's like, okay, you can dress up as a guy. That's what you're supposed to be doing because you're at this school doing this odd activity. But why that guy? When she dressed up as in traditional Turkish clothes, I believe, it's like, okay, they dressed you up in these clothes. Okay, but why did you say, I'm going to become someone's 500th wife? Why did you go there? Okay, you were flabbergasted that someone was having an N-word party in Russia. Okay, but why did you, there's something missing there. Doesn't mean you're a mastermind evil person, you're a criminal or something, but that's where the awareness is. That's where she, now that she's woken up and she's like, oh, what's going on here? That's gives her the opportunity to go like, what was I doing? There was probably something I was unaware of. Let's see if she addresses that.
Anything, it can't be, it's not a blackface. And when he just started talking about it, I was like, how a bandana is a category of a blackface. It was just supposed to cover my hair better. And that's why I talked so much about Instagram filters and trying to show you that this was not a recent post. And only after Dr. Honda's video, after watching it, I realized completely what was wrong with this. And I wish I've seen his video before I made mine, because now my video looks different for me.
Well, that breaks my heart. I would hope that she wouldn't, as I said in the first video, almost everyone, if not everyone, has racist, sexist, classist, various other kinds of oppressive messages and attitudes and prejudices and bigotry inside of them, because you cannot get out of it when you're drowning in it. When your society is it, and you're drowning in society, you're just going to absorb it. And so what I'll say is that every single person, me, Alina, you, has to reckon with that throughout our entire life, and we will never be done with that. She is reckoning with it right now, publicly, but we all have to be reckoning with it all the time, including me, okay? I still have a way to go, and I will try, and I will strive, and I will be humble and know that I don't know everything yet. I'm not fully awake yet, if you will. And that's okay. It's not humanly possible to shed that brainwashing with a snap of fingers, or going to, taking a women's studies class, or, and I'm not putting down, I love women's studies class. I'm just saying or getting a graduate degree in psychology where you study racism and sexism and classism. Just going through that process doesn't mean that you're done. So I hope that she doesn't feel like, oh, I blew it in the first video. I hope she can say, I did what almost no one else does. I took responsibility, and I apologized, and I explored, and I put it out there. And now I'm continuing to explore. I don't know if a lot of other people do that. So I hope she doesn't feel bad about that. It just happens to be public is the thing. I have students who have less awareness than she does, and they're doing it privately in my classroom. And I'm like, and they're going to be a therapist, and I approve of them becoming a therapist. I'm still working on them, and I'm telling the next professor, work on that person regarding that oppressive attitude that they have. But I don't think it's very strange. It's like, well, the person emerged out of our society. It's not their fault. So, we've got to work on that. And if they don't work on it sufficiently, then we will kick them out of the program, by the way, which happens sometimes. But that's not very common. The point is that she's doing it publicly. She could have walked away. She could have been like, screw you guys, I'm going home. She could have shut off all her comments. She's facing it. Okay, I know, it's a lot better than a lot of other people.
My eyes, and I do apologize that it offended a lot of people also, and I will be more mindful in the future of what I'm wearing. And regarding people in the school who didn't tell me anything about my outfit or my posts, I can understand Dr. Honda's point about sometimes being not comfortable to speak up. And I've been there too, when people would tell something kind of insensitive about me, like on a party, or about people like me, Sometimes there were occasions where I wouldn't say anything, and to be honest, I regret it, because I wish I would have spoken up.
Yeah, and I don't know if I talked, but I've talked about this in the podcast before, where I pause on an unfortunate frame. Let me get out of that frame. I mean, I don't always do that. Sometimes I just leave it because I'm like, I don't want to mess with the controls. But she's being nice. I want to be nice to her. Okay, so she's saying that. Oh, wait, what was she saying? I forget. Let's rewind.
Like on a party or about people like me, you know?
All right. So, right. She's saying, look, just because no one said because she was saying in the previous video, look, no one said anything to the face I was doing at this high school. So, you know, I don't know what the big deal is. And I was saying, well, you can't really bank on that as an indicator that no one was hurt by it, because when you are an oppressed individual, you learn through experience that sometimes you really just can't say anything because you'll incur further bullying. No one will hear you. They'll call you a party pooper. You're too sensitive. You're woke or whatever. You're too PC. And so the vast majority of time, anecdotally, people just don't say anything, including me. When I'll hear horrible racist things and I'm just like, what do I do? And so she's saying that even for, I think, bigotry about or insensitivity towards little people, she won't say anything, and she feels bad about that. She's like, oh, I probably should have said something. And you know what I'll say about that is, one, it's terrible you're put in that position and hurt in that way where you have to ask yourself, should I say anything? And two, it makes total sense not to say something sometimes, because it's just like, where do I begin with these people? Like, hey, that thing, you know, what if they're going to get defensive? And so, you know, you're already starting, it's a no-win situation. You can't win. You're either going to win the argument and cause pain in someone else because you're telling them that they're a bad person, or you're going to walk away feeling like you said something, you flubbed it, you know what I mean? You got upset and you're like, ugh, then you walk away and then everyone's laughing. Like, there's no way to win. So it's an unfortunate position to be victimized. So, you know, there's no way to come out of that unscathed.
Sometimes there were occasions where I wouldn't say anything, and to be honest, I regret it because I wish I would have spoken up. But in those moments, it's like, I don't know, I didn't always felt confident, you know, and you don't always want to ruin the mood of a party. You don't want things to get awkward. So you just don't speak up. But I wish, like thinking about these occasions, I wish I did speak up though. And like now I'm trying to do this. And I do not blame people who didn't speak up to me. I completely take all the responsibility and all the fault and apologize for it. I'm just talking about myself, that I wish to, you know, speak up more and rise more against discrimination. And
and if you're ever able to, maybe it's in the moment, maybe it's a day later, maybe you pull them aside, say, hey, you know, I know you didn't mean, but if we're gonna put an end to this, it requires us at least some of the time speaking up and giving other people the benefit of the doubt, giving them a chance to learn from their mistakes. Maybe they didn't even know, you know, and you just have to say, hey, you know what you're doing right there, I'm sure you don't mean it hurtful, but it does hurt me, or it hurts. I'm guessing it might hurt other people. I don't know, but you just might want to think about that.
Now I do understand that there was also it was also wrong for me to wear what I wore, and I want to thank Dr. Honda for explaining this to me, for taking his time, and I apologize for it. Dr. Honda also mentions how he's confused about me saying in one part of my video that I know that the N-word is bad, and in other parts saying that I didn't know it was bad. And I understand his confusion. I didn't, I guess, articulate it well. In Russian, we have words which are like bad, like cuss words, something that you will not hear on television like ever. they are just bad words, but or you also can use them to offend people, but it just really depends, how like you use them. It also depends on intonation, and also
Okay, so she's addressing my central question directly, which is good, and I'm curious as to where she's at and her growth here. She's starting by saying, in Russia, there's these nuanced words that I mistakenly thought that the N-word or these other words were kind of like that, where it's like they're terrible insults. I think this is what she's saying, that these words are terrible insults, but they're also, you can use them in a context where it's not super insulting. And yeah, I mean, in America, the United States, we have that as well. So, but I still, and maybe she could convince me otherwise, but I'll repeat it again because I'm sort of reminding myself that it was a number of posts. And of course, these are just her posts. So we don't know what she really thinks, but there's a chance that this is larger for her, that, okay, you didn't know it was that bad, and I'll believe you that, but you know it's kind of bad. So where's the learning? Because the other thing I'm looking for, honestly, is for her to say, I have been brainwashed to believe that black people are blank. I don't know if in Russia that's true. I've heard that it's true. I don't know if it's true for her, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm wondering if that was kind of emerging in this stuff that I was doing. The way I was tokenizing some of these things, the way that I use the N-word. I don't know. I mean, I certainly didn't mean it that way, and I know I was quite confused, believe me. But I wonder if my, brainwashed racism ideas were coming through there. It's just something a lot like, you don't have to say I've explored it and I figured it out. You could just say, I wonder. And actually that's what I do with my trainees, is that I actually start my lectures and my, modules on this and discussions with supervisees, that discussions of culture are more questions than answers. They're more question marks than statements. So you say, I wonder if classism is causing me to judge this client. I don't know. Maybe. If it was, maybe that, and maybe I should account for it this way, but I don't know, because there's no way to know. It's not like in Inside Out, the cartoon, the Pixar cartoon, which is beautiful, one of my favorite movies of all time, that the classism part of you in your brain steps forward and says, well, actually, we don't know. There's no mechanism of knowing, does that attitude come from classism or not? I don't know. It's amorphous. It's all kind of mixed up in our personality. So, I mean, part of me is like, well, maybe there'll be another reaction to my reaction that Alina will do, which I invite, honestly. I think this is a good model for the emerging understanding, and also that I don't know. I can't know what Alina's experience is, and I can't know what her path is. I can only provide my observations and believe in her.
Depends on like the context. What I was trying to say, that I knew that it was like a cuss word, like a bad word, but I didn't realize that it's also always a racial slur. And like I fully realize now the bad optics of this word, and I'm thanking again Dr. Honda for also explaining it more, and I apologize for using it. Dr. Honda said that he sat down for 3 hours with a scholar who studied African American studies, and it just sounds like such an amazing idea. And honestly, I would have loved to do this, but I feel like I don't really have an opportunity to do it now, in a way that 3 hours is a long time, and I wouldn't ask anyone to, just talk to me for 3 hours and that's it.
I bet you that someone would be willing to do that given her profile. So I wouldn't say don't try it. And it's not just 3 hours, right? And I don't even remember saying that, but it sounds like something I'd say. That it's an ongoing thing, like I said. It's a lifetime of awareness, a lifetime of becoming aware. And the other thing I'll say, and I've said this before, that I commend her as a little person for even just going on the show and putting herself out there. I mean, awareness and visibility is a big part of breaking down the bigotry in the masses. And there's a lot of bigotry, a lot of prejudice, and a lot of dehumanization and, trying to sweep people under the rug. And her bravery and courage of going on the show actually helps society in that way, 100%.
And unfortunately, I'm not in a place where I can pay an hourly rate for Americans. If you guys might know someone who would have been interested in doing that, that would be very awesome. And maybe we even can make like a YouTube video, like educational YouTube video about it, which would be really, really amazing because more people, will learn. Dr. Honda mentioned
What I would recommend for her is to find a black person in Russia. I don't know, but I'm guessing that a black person in Russia would say, yeah, I got a lot of things to say to Alina. And I know where she's coming from, and I'll be able to explain things better to her. Because, she lives in Russia and has absorbed that societal notion. But, for an American black person to talk with her, I think that would help. But I suspect that what we saw, or even another person of color in Russia, honestly, because it wasn't just the gangsta face and the N-word, it was the traditional garb of Turkish women. I can't remember. Anyway, so she could talk with someone along those lines. Obviously she could talk to whoever she wants, but I'm guessing that would be the most illuminating, and it could be a back and forth. It wouldn't obviously be a YouTube video, but it'd be like a questioning. Like one of the things that if I was talking to a privileged American white person who had an emerging understanding, I would say something like, I would ask them, do you understand the privilege that you have? I'm not accusing you of anything, but do you understand the benefits and the things you don't have to deal with that people of color have to deal with? Do you understand that? So I'd start there, and I'd say, well, let me paint a picture, because a lot of it is helping the privileged person understand what it's like for other people. And when they really get it, because they have a heart and they care, and they're not put in a defensive place, they will naturally understand. They will naturally wake up, because they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, people of color have been around me all the time. I had no idea what was going on for them. I just thought that we were beyond that in our current society. So that would be one thing that Alina could talk with someone about. Or Alina, if she has friends, she could just be like, look, I'm not looking for hours of talk. Could you just tell me more about what your experience is? That would, and really everyone should be doing that. And people should be doing that to her. People should be, as a little person, tell me about your experience. What's it like for you? What are the common things? Now, for some people, they don't want those questions. They're just like, look, I'm not put on this planet to educate you. Figure it out on your own. But if you're up for it, it can really help.
So history, well, some Americans, I guess, from like a very, very early age, there are activists who build their work only on fighting the discrimination that is based on race. So put a person who was not exposed to that in that environment, and you get someone who repeats the words without understanding.
Okay, good. So it's still kind of coming from a defensive place, which I get given the amount of hate she's incurred, but she's saying, I think what she's saying is in Russia, it's different than the United States, where she said something interesting. I don't think I include the clip, but she said, in the United States, you grow up with a lot of education and awareness of privilege and of racism and this sort of thing. And what I'll say is, no. And then she corrected herself. She said, some Americans. But yeah, some Americans. Not all. I mean, there are literal debates and legal actions being taking place so that teachers in schools can't have simple questions and modules on racism in the United States, just like simple ideas. Like, there are some people who get the short end of the stick when it comes to race, and there are people saying, you can't say that, that's anti-white. It's like, no, it's not. It's never been anti-white. Anyway, so some Americans. But anyway, what she's saying is, and I would say a minority of Americans, honestly, and maybe she's getting all those people, maybe younger people, for sure. But anyway, so Alina is saying that in her country, it's not that way. And I'll take her word for it on that. And so it's a lot to ask that someone would be aware of it. Okay. She's still basically explaining how she got to the post in the first place, which is interesting, but I'm wondering if I'm going to get that answer. And it's okay if I don't, because like I said, waking up takes a lifetime. But so Alina, if you're watching this, which I'm guessing you would be, because this has now become a YouTube conversation, that I challenge you, and I don't know, maybe there's nothing there, but I would challenge you to really think about why, it's just that, it's that question again. And you heard me the first time, Alina, when I asked that. So if maybe you'll get to it in the final 10 minutes here, but you didn't know it was that bad. Let's say you knew it was 5% as bad as it actually was. Okay. So you thought it was kind of bad or barely bad, but you didn't know it was that bad. Okay. But you knew it was barely bad. You knew it was kind of bad. And I'm guessing, Alina, that people from your exact same culture, maybe even living on your exact same street, your age, would have known enough, or would have seen that 5% bad and would have gone, no, I'm not going to do it. Now, there'd be others that would lean into it. I mean, obviously that one person posting of the party, the N-word party with the N-word clothes and the N-word talk and the N-word tattoos, like, it was just awful. But so obviously that person didn't care and was leaning into the whatever amount of bad that they knew it was. But you still knew it was kind of bad. And so what I'm guessing, Alina, is that you have absorbed a dehumanization and a I don't know, hatred is a strong word, but a discounting of maybe even particularly black people. I don't know, people of color, non-white people, I don't know, something along those lines, because of attitudes around you, the way your parents were, the way your family was, the way TV is, the way your friends are, the way, your Facebook group was, or your sort of internet bubble. And that caused you to know it was kind of bad, but not really care. And to say, well, it doesn't matter because those people don't matter. There's probably something there. I don't know that. I can't know that. But that is usually the case. And I have that too. So I'm not better than you, Alina. I have had that insight. I'll just talk about Asian Americans. I have incurred racism against, I'm Asian American. And I have incurred dehumanization of Asian Americans, particularly Asian Americans with accents or who are recent immigrants. And so I have committed those crimes. Or those bigoted attitudes and communications. I'm old enough to have never done that on the internet, but when I was young, if I had the internet, I probably would have made some terrible posts. That's hard to admit. But if we're going to move the ball forward, people like me have to admit it and say, like, ugh, it's hard, And so that's the question I have. And maybe she'll answer it. If she does, hallelujah. If she doesn't, it's okay. It takes time. But that's the question, Alina, is you knew it was kind of bad and you didn't care. It doesn't mean you're a psychopath. It doesn't mean you're evil. It means you're normal. It means you gave in, as everyone else does, to the rhetoric of your society, to the attitudes, the dominant attitudes of your society, the power structure of your society. That's okay. And that's what you need to explore. That's what you need to dismantle, and that's what you need to lead the way with. You can lead the way by dismantling that and saying, I am humbled and I am going to shed that. And this is what I've learned, and other people could learn from you.
Of course, I don't mean that I shouldn't have tried to understand it. And I don't blame Americans also, but this is my story, my context, my biases, and I apologize for it. And about the post from Dubai, and Dr. Honda raised a good question about my post from Dubai.
Sorry, Dubai, not Turkey. Was that insensitive of me? Oh God, don't hate me, internet.
Like, why didn't I just write, I feel like I'm getting married to a sultan today. Why did I express it in a different way? And to be honest, I truly don't know. I don't know, but I'm just thinking like, why did I write it like that? And it's just really make me wondering too. Why did I put it like exactly?
Okay, good. I'm going to let her talk, but the gears are turning. This is good. Now, maybe she won't land on something that'll feel satisfying to me, which doesn't really matter. I'm just a person on the other side of the planet, but this is good. The gears are turning. She's stopping. She's like, why did I do it that way? I don't think I meant bad things by it. It didn't feel racist to me, but other people are reacting that way. Why did I do that? There were a lot of other options I could have said. And she kind of downplayed what she said. What she said was, I'm going to marry a sultan today. I'm going to be the 500th wife, something like that. And what I was saying to her was, okay, someone dressed you up in the outfits and you posted a picture and it looks nice. You could even argue that it was respectful because you were honoring what you even showed to the other people that dressed you up in those traditional clothing. And as a respect to them, you posted a picture. Okay, but you said 500th wife or something like that. That's a particular, there's 1,000 things you could have said, but you said that thing, a joke about another person's culture. Now, if that was all we saw, then we'd be like, anyway. But we saw the getup of the gang member, I guess, is the only thing I can think of. We saw the N-word posts, it's all part of the same thing, so let's see but the gears are turning, and that's the golden spot. That's the place. That's the, why did I do that? So that's a great step. Instead of jumping to a defense, which most people do, I'm not racist. I didn't know. It's just a joke. Like, get over it. Stop being PC. She's like, why did I do it? Let's see what she says.
Exactly the way I put it, So I still have some learning to do, some processing, So if you have any suggestions on maybe what I should read about that, you are welcome.
Okay, good. So she left it blank. She's like, I don't know. Defensiveness could have snuck in there, but it didn't. Excuses could have, it didn't. She's like, I wonder what's going on there. I would be surprised if she hasn't incurred some Islamophobia. I don't know about Russia, but I do know about Seattle, and there's a lot of that here. I don't know about Russia. Maybe there's none of it there, but there's a lot of it here in Seattle. And so if you get inundated with hatred towards Muslims, hatred towards people from, Dubai and the surrounding countries, dehumanization of those people, thinking of them as savages or whatever it is, murderous suicide bombers, like universally, that kind of thing, it will get under your skin, and you don't really think of them as humans. You don't really think of them as people that deserve respect. You think it's kind of funny, their lifestyle, their culture, like, ha ha ha, look at them with their 500 wives. I'll make a joke about that. It's not a crime. It's not high treason. It's not high racism. It's not, high racism. I won't give examples. But it is an expression and an alert of a barometer, like, maybe I got something to work on. Maybe there's something, and that, so she's asking for a book. I don't know if there is a book that would help, but I would encourage you, Alina, if you're watching this, to explore that. Like, with Black people, maybe even in your country, people of, so these are categories that I would explore. People of color in your country, Black Americans, and whatever your ideas of people in Dubai. And maybe even half Asians like myself, although that one seemed innocent, meaning that she didn't mean anything by it. She wasn't expressing any kind of hatred towards half Asian. Anyway, the point is that to write all that out, and then write out every single association that you have with those people, and be honest with yourself. Don't share it with anyone else. Just write down everything, even things that feel tertiary, just like, well, when I think of a Black American, I think this and I think that. And so, some things will be good, some things will be neutral, and some things will be bad. And then just start working your way through those lists. When I think about someone from Dubai, here are all the associations. I'm going to write it all out and I'm going to explore it. And then when that will be the beginning of the exploration, then you can look at, regardless of whether it's positive, negative, or neutral, you start looking at that and it's like, okay, what part of that coincides with stereotype? And what part of that is just my experience with that culture? Like, I don't know, maybe people in Dubai are really into food. Who knows? And you're just like, I associate people in Dubai being really into food. Okay, maybe it's like true. Maybe your association is according to your experience, and maybe some negative things according. Anyway, the point is that you start to break that down. You start to look, okay, what part of this is brainwashing? What part of this is unfair? What part of this is dehumanization? Maybe I only have 3 words, which means I really know nothing about these people, which is okay. I mean, it's okay to just not know things. And maybe I'm filling it in with all this other stuff. So, you can start there, and y'all that aren't Alina can do that as well. Just, pick one group of people and just write it down, and you'd be surprised what you'll come up with. You'd be, because I find a lot of people, privileged people, when they think about, an oppressed group, they'll be like, well, I think they're fine. They're fine. But if you really write it out, if you're really honest with yourself, some bad crap is going to come out of that. If you're really honest with yourself, even if you're like, I know that association is wrong, it's still in there is the thing. And so anyway, you get that. And then you start to explore more. You start to dismantle it. This is where you really have to, it's like coming out of a cult. You have to deprogram your brain and say like, okay, that one, that's in there. Huh? That word is in there? Yeah, that word's in there. I don't usually acknowledge it, but that's in there. I think that people from Dubai are this. That's not me. I got that from society. Not my fault, but my responsibility to change.
To give me some. And about the Hugh Grant post, the main purpose of this post was just, as I said in the previous video, to point out that I just want someone who looks like Hugh Grant. But it's a good question from Dr. Honda. Why did I go to race? Why did I point out that the kids will look half Asian? I did not think that they might still look like Hugh Grant. And Dr. Honda, he gave me a great perspective in the sense that why did I think that having one Asian parent would make the kids look like their Asian parent? And that's such a valid question, and that's not something I thought about. And only now I'm starting to realize that maybe that was kind of hinting towards the idea of pure whiteness, which is like really disgusting.
Awesome. Worth the wait. So I even forgot that I said that. Yeah. That she had, she was talking about Hugh Grant. She's like, I love Hugh Grant. I have a crush on him, but he's too old. Does anyone know anyone like him? His brother doesn't really look like him. And, his kids are, his wife is Asian. And so his kids aren't even going to look like him. And, but she didn't even say that last part. She's like, he's married to an Asian woman and his kids are half Asian and, cry face. And you're like, what? From the look of it, it's like, you think we're disgusting? And then hearing her explanation, she's like, no, she was just like, because they're Asian, they aren't going to look like Hugh Grant. And then I was saying, okay, well, that's not horribly offensive. And as a half Asian person myself, it just is reminiscent of the pain that I've been through throughout my life. But I don't even think she secretly meant it that way. But she heard me, and her gears are turning. And she's like, let's rewind this, because this is key. This shows growth. This shows she's going down the path. Hallelujah. So she is saying, I even, hearing that, it's just, because I was saying, well, Alina, just because the kids are half Asian doesn't mean they don't look like him. I look like my mom. My mom's white. So just because, and there's a long-standing idea that pure whiteness is white, and if you have any non-white in you, you are not white. It's like you're either white, pure, or you're dirty, or you're just not white. It's just like you're over there, and we all understand that. And so, was that sneaking through in her post of like, his kids have like Asian in them, and so they're not going to look like him, or they're not going to be really like him because they've got foreigner and sort of injected into him or something. I'm taking it a little far, of course. That's not what she said, but she's asking the question. She's like, maybe I do have a pure white thing, and because of society, not me. I wasn't born. I didn't come out of the womb with this idea that pure white is better, or somehow any person of any I don't know what to say. If you have any genetics from a non-white parent, then it means that you're somehow like very different. I guess that's the way to put it. It's like as soon as if you have two white people, then anyway, you get my point. But so her gears are turning, and she's like, maybe I do have that, and that's disgusting. And that's the moment. And it sucks, but that's the moment you want when you're growing. Is like, that cringe of just like, oh God, really, baby? I mean, I certainly don't want to think that about myself, but maybe, that's the golden spot. That's where the glory is. That's where the courage is. That's where the goodness is. That's where the morality is. That's when you're on the good side, Alina, is when you start to cringe and go, ugh.
And that's not something I thought about. And only now I'm starting to realize that maybe that was kind of hinting towards the idea of pure whiteness, which is like really disgusting. And I'm very stupid for not seeing that, and I apologize.
Not stupid, normal. You're rare in that you're looking at it and admitting it. You're not even really admitting it. You're just wondering, is that true? Because there's no way to know, right? You can't say, oh yeah, that's my, pure white supremacy sneaking through. You can't know, because it's just, I don't know. I just posted. It was really fast. Was I influenced? Maybe. And by asking that question, you're better than 99% of people on the planet, literally. Maybe more.
For it too. And I truly appreciate how Dr. Honda really explained these things, and he was really understanding to me. And I'm truly sorry that he had to face a lot of discrimination too. And yeah, this is just something that shouldn't happen at all. This feels really wrong now. I appreciate how Dr. Honda pointed out that racism is still a part of our society. Unfortunately, it really is, and I hate it, and I hate how some discriminatory ideas and things might be so deep into me that I can do some harmful and hurtful things without even realizing it. And without realizing that it might actually really, really hurt someone.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say 2 thumbs up. That's without even realizing it. And I think maybe that's where people get tripped up on, is that and maybe we don't explain it well enough, being from our side, is that you probably have been brainwashed to believe certain things, and you're probably doing things and you don't even know it. You're trying your best and you're doing good things. You're a moral, caring, good person, and even so, you might be inadvertently hurting people. It doesn't mean that we know that you are, but you might be. In fact, you probably are. And so, because we all are, including myself. You know, like I don't hear that talk from people in my camp. I don't hear this, I'm just like you. I'm just accusing you of something that I accuse myself of every day. I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying I'm different. I'm saying I think you're like me because I discovered I do these things. Let me tell you the ways that I've done it. And I think you might be doing it too. And I think that you care enough that if you knew, you wouldn't do it. You know, I think I believe in you. I believe in you. You know, it makes me want to cry, just the pain that we put everyone, not only the racism, of course, and the, ableism that she goes through, but also the pain that we inflict on those who are trying their best to not be that way. Like most people don't want to be ableist. Most people don't want to be racist or classist. And so if we're going to change, we have to believe in them. We have to say, I believe there's good in you, You're Luke looking at Darth Vader's racism. I believe good in you, and then Darth Vader picks up the Palpatine and throws him down the thing.
You mentioned different nationalities, races, cultures in my posts without no reason. With my lack of knowledge back then, I thought that it's just something I can talk about if I want to. I'm just now starting to realize that I also had some undetermined biases. And no, now I do not think that I can go there. Because I never experienced racism and discrimination based on race. It's not my place to speak,
Okay, good. This is all good. I mean, this is consistent with what she was saying before, and I believe her. I do. Do you believe her? I believe her.
And I think I just need to shut up and listen. Dr. Honda also mentioned why I didn't talk about someone who reached out to me and was actually considerate and wasn't offensive or ableist. And yeah, there were people like that for sure. We even had some conversations and...
Right, so I think what I was saying was that she concluded her video talking about the extreme bigotry that she was experiencing online. I mean, just horrendous things. And as a person on the internet myself, it doesn't surprise me, and I have so much sympathy for her regarding going through that. It's like, I mean, some criticism to Alina, okay, but and just watch her video for the vitriol and really hate crime level of things that she was getting from people. And you think, wow, they're trolls. No, some of these people had... Anyway, point is that I was hoping that people were not... Some of the messages were not doing that to her. I was just like, and she's saying, yeah, there were supportive people. Okay, good.
And I am so happy to say that I could even personally apologize to some of them. They even took their time to explain more about the topic, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I also want to thank people who shared some resources with me. So yeah, there was not only bullying. And of course, I want to thank Dr. Honda for providing me new information, sharing it with me, and really new points of view. I would also like to ask white people to stop forgiving me. Of course, not gonna lie, the support feels nice and I'm grateful for that. But my goal is not to be forgiven by the people who were not affected of what I did.
I don't know exactly what she's referring to. So she's saying, to you white people out there, I don't need you to forgive me, because you weren't the aggrieved party. And okay, and she's saying, it's nice to get support. I think people are free to give support. Now, what I would hope that people wouldn't do, and what she would reject, is if people were like, you didn't do anything wrong, those are a bunch of snowflakes. And I think that she should push back on that. She'd be like, thanks for the support, but no thanks. Because you're making it worse. That I actually don't even agree with how you're trying to support me. I think those people should be pushed back on. But just other white people just being like, oh, I think you're great, and I don't think I believe you, or I don't think it was that bad. Without, I think you know what I'm saying.
Acted, that's totally fine. But I'm doing this because I really care about the harm that I caused, and maybe it can highlight the issues that we still have in our society. And also, I just want to be honest. Dr. Honda also mentioned that now I have a platform and maybe I can actually make something out of it, kind of try to help someone or try to make something better out of this whole situation. And it got me thinking too, and I have a few ideas. I might be sharing them with you soon, but maybe you will just see the results of these ideas.
That sounds great. I also just think these kinds of videos are good. So for me, that's my style. What she's doing is my style, and my reaction to her is obviously my style. So, I think this is already pretty great.
Maybe I will not share the ideas, but then you'll see right away the results. I just want to ask.
Okay, Alina, before you do anything, because I'm worried that you're going to pull some kind of stunt. I don't think you're that kind of person, but I think you are that kind of person. You had that song on stage. I think you're in a charming way. You're kind of a stunt. You're an extroverted person. So before you do anything, run it past 10 people of color or myself. I can be one of those people. Don't, run it past someone. Just be like, so I was thinking about doing this. What do you think? Because I worry that in your early stage of awareness, you might make a mistake and it'll be worse. And I don't want that to happen to you. So, I'd just email me. Go to my website, psychologysalad.com, click on the contact button, email me through there. I will get back to you. Because, I'm not the only person. Obviously, you don't have to ask me, but I would ask some other people, is my point.
You not to, rush me, because the situation here right now in Russia, it's very bad. I'm not gonna lie. It's very, we have a lot of uncertainty of the future, and it's very actually hard to focus on something else.
Yeah, 100%. You got bigger fish to fry, and I don't know where Alina falls on this issue. I'm guessing she's one of the good people. I don't know. Obviously, the Ukrainians are being murdered, and there are war atrocities and war crimes that are occurring because one man wants to kill a bunch of people in Ukraine just for his own political thing. And so there's all the victims there. Alina and other Russians are also powerless. They're not being murdered. Now, you could argue that the military folks, the Russian military that are being thrown into war, and some of them are dying or being hurt in some way, they're suffering as well because one man wants. Now, anyway, point is that take your time, Alina. It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime of discovery, With students that I work with, we work on what you're talking about, Alina, for 5 years. I have a student, I'll have students in a class, and I'll have them in various classes throughout the program. The program takes 3 or 4 years, and then I work with people post-grad for a couple years. So, 5, 6 years, and we work on a number of things, including this. It takes a long time. So, even if you tried to rush it, you couldn't. So, and like you're saying, you got bigger fish to fry.
And even making this video, it was hard. And but at the same time, talking on the video, you know, it wasn't like, it kind of took my mind off, but now it all came back. I don't know, it's just really difficult with everything what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how Alina is feeling, but if I were in her position, I would feel ashamed. I've been here before. Americans of a certain ilk know this feeling. Shame in our government, shame in our military, shame in half of the constituency in the voting public for voting certain people in power who would do shameful, horrible atrocities. I mean, I'm old enough to have gone through that a lot. I was born during the Vietnam War, for crying out loud. So I understand how that feels. It feels awful. It almost feels like it's your fault when it's not our fault, especially when you're voting for the right people and the wrong people keep getting elected and keep doing wrong things, you know? And it's not even, and people that I voted for did wrong things. So all we got is a vote. That's all we get to do. And the government's just going to do what it's going to do sometimes, particularly in Russia right now. So yeah, you feel ashamed, you feel responsible, you feel guilty, you feel like you want to crawl into a hole. When I would travel, I would claim I was Canadian sometimes. I'd be like, oh, Canadian. And, you know, because there's times when I'm terribly ashamed of my country, but it's just like when I see it from the outside and I'm like, Alina, it's not your fault. If you've been doing what you can within reason in your country to do the right thing, vote and speak up, then, you know, it's good enough for me, because what else could you have done? And when I'm in it, I feel like there's no excuse, you know, it's just like, and even that phrase of like, my government, my country, it's just like, it's not really my government. It's not my country. I don't have any control over it, you know? So, yeah, I mean, I just assume that Alina is on the right side of things. I don't know if she is. I think she is.
Guys, if you wanna, like, honestly, if you wanna leave some hate comments, do it, but also make a donation to help our neighboring country. Also, I want to mention that we don't really have a freedom of speech here, so I can't talk too much.
Oh, I see. So she, yeah, right. I mean, I don't know how it regulates YouTube, but I do know that people will get arrested. I don't know for what kinds of speech, but right. So she's not articulating, I think she's saying, because she could have consequences, which I believe totally.
Much about it, which really sucks too. And please don't also, like, I'm safe. Yes, a lot of, like, things are going on, but so far I'm in a safe place, and nothing is happening here. But please think about people who are actually in the place where it's not safe, and really try to help as much as you can, because it really matters. And even spreading the information matters too, because being silent, it's not a good choice. With all of that being said, I want to repeat that I will do better. I'm trying to do better. And I want to support those who suffer from discrimination, because that's something that shouldn't happen, but unfortunately it's still happening. I'm very glad I watched Dr. Honda's video, and he has a great content. And again, thank you so much for providing new information, sharing your thoughts, taking time to do this. And yeah, huge fan.
Well, that's interesting. I will say this is something I've never done before. I've never made a reaction video about a cast member on one of these shows and then have them, I mean, I've had people reach out and say like, oh, I saw your video. Yeah, it makes sense to me. And you nailed this on the head, and this other stuff you weren't really right about. And we'll go back and forth sometimes. Sometimes we'll talk. You know, I've talked with some of the cast members on the phone. But this has been very satisfying to me because she's gone further down the road. She had that moment where she's like, ugh, it might actually be representative of my racism, this pure white idea that I have incurred from my culture. And that, moment where her gears are turning and she's just like, is that a thing? Is that because of the racism that I've internalized? I don't know. I mean, it could be, but I don't know. I'll continue to explore it. Like that's magical. If we could all just do that, if we could all just make a mistake, because we're going to have someone in a compassionate way offer up some feedback, give some structure to the exploration moving forward, have that person absorb that, consider it, add the question marks, wonder, still defend and say, hey, these other accusations, not okay, but these ones, yeah, that makes sense. And they continue going in there. If we could do that, we could solve so many problems. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.